Hello folks, and welcome to another video. So let me get my water out of the way. Caffeine. So how's everybody been? Everybody been safe? Nobody getting sick? Getting arrested in riots? So today is CAO Traviata Traviata. Okay, anyways. Yes, it is windy, so I'm using my vertical quad torch lighter. This is a light cigar. It is a light wrapper. Draw could be a little bit better. It's not too bad. Yeah, and I got that lighter on sale online at one of the, I guess either cigar websites or lighter websites, and got it for like $5. I think the retail is like $10. Yeah, so again, so Chicago was in the news last week for all the killings. Was it it was like depending on the news site you go to, it'll either be like 87 shot, like 16 dead, a couple of children are mixed in with the dead. And of course everyone is saying, silence from Black Lives Matter. And of course, Black Lives Matter came out, and again they're pushing the reparations, and of course people like myself and other people saying, man, look, reparations ain't going to happen. The only way reparations is going to happen is if, and of course, they came up with the numbers, which is 30 trillion. It's not going to happen. The U.S. prints $30 trillion to give to black folks. They might as well just use that money to wipe their ass. They're not going to be able to buy anything with it. So now we got some more people coming out, mainly I guess what you consider black leaders or leaders in the black community. They're coming out saying, well, okay, we'll settle for about 14 to 15 trillion. How about 15 trillion? Now the thing with 15 trillion is, okay, yes. So let's say the U.S. government goes, okay, we'll print 15 trillion, but there's a catch. Any blacks who takes the reparation has to take the repatriation back to Africa. And of course, Liberia, during the Lincoln administration, or actually before the Lincoln administration, the U.S. has actually gone to Africa and colonized Liberia with the intent of repatriating black slaves back to Africa, and they're going to send them all to Liberia. If you're not sure what Liberia is on the west coast of Africa. It's right around where the Congo Ivory Coast is, where if you know where the, I guess just pull up, map, Google Map, Google Earth, is that saying Google it? Of course, when it came time, Lincoln decided not to, because it would be too, one, he was afraid that the U.S. could, and I'll link a excerpt of his speech that he made where he mentioned it, where if it was within his power, he would free the slaves and then send them all back home to Liberia. Then he noted that all the slaves would be dead within 10 days because they would die of hunger, starvation. So it wasn't that I guess the U.S. didn't have the manpower, didn't have the ships to send blacks back to Liberia in Africa. It was just that according to Lincoln, they just didn't have I guess enough ships to ship like food, and things like that to help blacks who decided to go back to Africa. And of course, with repatriation, there's what's called a self repatriation, meaning you decide to go back to your mother country. Give up your citizenship of whatever country that you've gone to go back to whatever other country. And then there's forced repatriation, meaning either you, whatever country you're in, the government decides, yes, you're a visitor here, or you may have citizenship of this country, but we don't care, we're shipping you back to your country of origin. And that would normally with repatriation, it would be for someone who, let's say someone who up and left the United States, decided to go to Japan. I guess being deported would be forced repatriation, like the U.S. deporting all of the illegals. Well, that wouldn't be repatriation because you're here illegally. But let's say you legally go to another country either, and you decide to apply for a green card or apply for citizenship. Let's say an American goes to China, or let's say Japan, because there are a lot of Westerners who are in Japan and Vietnam. And a lot of them have wives and husbands, and a lot of them took up citizenships in those countries. So let's say something happens, and let's say coronavirus. And the United States, like, hey, all citizens or former citizens of the United States, we recommend you come back to the U.S. If you want to repatriate, then you may at this point, and the U.S. will accept you back. So repatriation would work for in that case, but but for someone who say, let's say the kid of the American who went to Japan or whatever, or their grandkids grandkids who was born and grew up in Japan, repatriation wouldn't really work for them because technically they're born over there. But anyways, enough of that for repatriation, but we're just using the term to meaning send the person back. So the discussion is, okay, if you want to take repatriation, then if you want to take reparation, then you got to take repatriation. Go back to, you don't have to be Liberia, whatever African country that's willing to take you. Because someone did the calculation, and they came up with something like a 3.3 million per black person, man, woman, and child. So of course the question is going to come up with the with the distribution. So if you got a woman who's got 6 kids, she's getting $12 million. Well, including her, so that'll be about $15 million. So she's getting $15 million, as opposed to the single black person who's only getting 3.3. So of course there's going to be, and of course there's going to be the question of, when is the birth cutoff date? So it's like, okay, we're going to make it November 2019. So if you were born November 2019, you get it. If you're born after November 2019, you don't get it. Of course, people are going to be haggling, busting heads. It's like, no, my kid was born, my kid was just born September, it's 20, last of September. Anyways, my kid was born February 2020, my kid should get reparation. So no, it's not going to happen. Because number one is the blacks are going to fight over who's going to get how much, birth cutoff dates. You got the woman with 6 kids, she's going to get 16, 17 million. To where you got the single person. If you're a felon, do you get reparations? Because was it something like 70% of the jail, 70% of jails are filled with black men. So so you got all of these black men who aren't going to get reparations. Does it include blacks who decided to move to Europe, and yes, and there have been a very, very, very small number of blacks who did decide to move back to Africa. It's a very, very small number, but there are some. Because number one, yes, most African country, I guess if you go, you probably want to choose one that has English as its first or second language. I guess there's two Western languages that's spoken in Africa. One is French and one is English. So yes, and you can look on the African map and they'll show you which country was colonized by England. Of course, U.S. only colonized one, which is Liberia. So the rest is either going to be Dutch, English, French, or Portugal. I don't think Portuguese colonized any African countries. Okay, now the draw is real smooth. It's like smooth, good tasting cigars. Now, it's not very strong, so there's no bitterness, no coffee taste. Has a nice aroma, tastes good. Again, you can't go wrong. CAO. I like CAO. I do have I want to try the Brazilian because I have the Colombia. I have one more stick of the Colombia. And I want to try the Brazil, but for some reason the CAO Brazil is a little bit more expensive than the rest of the CAO. I don't know why. Maybe it's the leaf. Maybe they're using like the choice leaves to make their Brazilian line of the CAO cigars. And of course another line of CAO cigars. If you're in a CAO cigar, you know the cigar I'm going to be talking about, which is the one that it's named after engines, the V8, the flatheads. Let me see here. And those are a bit more expensive also. I've tried a few, just bought single sticks to try. They're not bad cigars. A bit out of my price range to buy like a stick, a pack of 5 or a pack of 10. A pack of 5 of the flathead would cost about $80. So I'm like, okay, I'll try one stick just to see what the hoopla is about. It's like, yeah, not a bad cigar, but not worth nearly $100 for a pack of 5. So I'll maybe if I win the $1 million lottery, I might buy a box of it. It is a good cigar, and this CAO is a good cigar. Good puff, good smoke. So anyway, back to the topic before I close it out. Yes, and of course Black Lives Matter, they only care when it is a firefly. When a black man is killed by a white cop or killed by a white person. And of course me, being someone who is on the sideline, and speaking about Confederate flags, Confederate statues, as people said 2-3 years ago when they started pulling them down. They're not going to stop with the Confederate flag. They're not going to stop with the Confederate statue. Before you know it, they're going to try to pull down statues of Lincoln, which they're trying. They're trying to pull down statues of Washington, Jefferson, Theodore, and of course their excuse back then was, hey, tear down these Confederate statues, put them in museums. We're like, okay. And now, of course, they're going after Theodore in New York. Of course, Theodore Roosevelt is a native New Yorker. So it wouldn't make sense to have his statue at a New York museum, but they want to tear it down. So yeah, so the hypocrisy of the left shows itself again. So now you're going after statues that are in museums. Okay. And of course, and of course the Confederate flag, and people, Confederate flag represents slavery. Well, if you look it up, the Confederate flag represents the South. It didn't represent the 3% of white Jews and blacks who owned slaves. That 3% didn't care, didn't give one damn about the Confederate flag. They didn't give one damn about the South. And of course, since they are the 3%, since they are the rich 3%, of course they also control the government. Just like now, the rich 3% pretty much controls our government. Hell, look at our president. Hell, look at our president. The guy's a billionaire. He is literally, actually Trump is like the 1%er. But again, so Trump. So speaking of Trump, yeah, he finally decided to at least temporarily ban H-1B work visas, which is good. I guess he's at least listening to people. So like I said, with politics, you got to get on the politician's ass. Because at first Trump's like, hey, we're going to discontinue all immigration except for H-1Bs. Like, people are like, hey man, look, there's 40 million people out of work, 40 million Americans out of work, and you're talking about still allowing H-1B visas, work visas. So Trump's like, okay, well, I'm going to temporarily, ban H-1B visas too. It's like, okay, at least you're listening. So again, when it comes to politics, you got to get on your politician's ass. You got to hound them. When they're sleeping, you got to be there next to the bed, going, "Hey, Trump, man, get rid of H-1B visas." Trump's on the throne. He's taking a bath. You got to pop out of the bath shower. Hey, Trump, man, you got to do something about immigration reform. Because if you don't, the politician is going to think you don't care. It's just like anything. If you don't say anything, the person who's in charge of whatever it is that you want done or want change, they're not going to know you want change. Yeah, the politicians do speak a lot of hot air, but again, if something really matters to you, you got to be on them, or else again they're going to think you don't give a damn, and you might be on like their back burner. And so we'll see how many are killed this weekend in Chicago. It's probably going to be the usual weekend, which is about 40 to 60 shot, 5, 10, 15 dead, 1 or 2 child probably going to get killed in that list. Of course, Black Lives Matter is not going to care. And again, I don't know why they're in Europe, I don't know why they're in Asia, and I don't know why they're in Africa. It's like you're telling a bunch of black people who has black government, 99% black population, and you're over in Africa preaching to them that Black Lives Matter. Like, oh, okay, man, you're preaching to the choir here. And I'll close on this since we're speaking about Africa. China's all up in Africa. Recently they started building these mega cities where it's Chinese only. Of course, blacks are allowed in to do work like cleaning, janitorial cleaning work, maintenance work, construction work, but blacks cannot live in these cities. And of course, every time you mention this, you'll get that person that'll come out. They'll say things, the Chinese are building infrastructure. They're building roads. They're building harbors. They're building airports. They're building business strips. They're building shopping strips. And of course, and if you read up on it, and of course you have to retort back to them that yeah, they're building all of that, but they're charging it to the to the African government. Yeah, right now the African government is billions in debt to the Chinese. Whatever I eat's not settling in my stomach, man. It's whatever I had for dinner, breakfast or dinner. Give me some more caffeine. So I have to tell these people, yes, the Chinese are building all of this infrastructure, the roads, airports and harbors, you know, the buildings and the business section and stuff like that. But they're, of course, the money is coming out of the Chinese pocket. But of course, they're turning around and charging the African government 10 times what it cost them to build. So if a road project cost the Chinese government, $100 million, they're going to turn around and charge, $1 billion to whatever, to Nigeria, because they're in Nigeria, they're in Kenya, they're in Ethiopia. I don't know if they're in Somalia, Nigeria. They're in South Africa too. So you tell them that, yeah, they're building this, but they're charging, the African government is going in debt to the Chinese. And yes, I know, the U.S. is in debt to the Chinese too. But at least the U.S. can tell the Chinese government to go F themselves. These countries like Nigeria, Ethiopia, Kenya, these African countries, they can't tell because the Chinese government, based on what I'm trying to say, the Chinese military is a lot mightier than all of these, African countries combined. So if the Chinese wants to invade, it's like, hey, Nigeria, you owe us, 300 billion. You need to pay up. If you don't pay up, we're coming in and we're just going to start taking shit. What you going to do about it when the Chinese, when the Chinese military starts landing? They have air superiority. They're going to have water superiority. Of course, they're going to come. Of course, African countries are going to come crying to the United Nations. They're going to come crying to the United States. Oh, please help us. The bad Chinese are attacking us. And since it's the Chinese, the West, the West are not going to do anything about it. Trust me, if the Chinese decided to invade Nigeria, Somalia, Kenya, the West ain't going to do shit about it. President Trump may come out, news conference, and say a few things, hey China, don't attack Africa. that's going to be about it. Same thing. Boris Johnson is going to get on his news conference, Africa bad, and that's all you're going to get. And of course, from what I've read, not only are the Chinese in Africa, but they're also in the Middle East. And they're all up in the Middle East. And believe me, and I've been telling people that, man, the Chinese don't play around like the Western countries. If heads needs chopping, Xi Jinping is going to chop heads if heads needs chopping. And he don't care how many African heads or Middle Eastern heads that needs to be chopped, to get his point across. Yes, because what they're doing, of course, the Chinese, they show up with bags of money to bribe the politicians. They smile in your face. Next thing you know, you owe them $3 trillion, thanks to Obama. Yeah, thanks to Obama, the U.S. owes China somewhere close to, but it's about 2.8 trillion. Let's go ahead and round it up to $3 trillion. And what I tell the Chinese government, screw you, we're not paying you the $3 trillion. If you want it, go ask Obama, go ask the Democrats. I don't know what they've done with that money, pissed it away. that's it. Thank you for watching, and stay safe. Don't get sick.